at the Capitol, 109 miles away in Richmond, Virginia.
I just so appreciate your willingness to be so helpful as we head towards this next stage in Virginia's future.
Now, that's how it should be done. Republican Glenn Youngkin, who beat Terry McAuliffe in the race for governor last week, met with the man he's going to replace, Democrat Ralph Northam. They had lunch. They were polite. It all seemed very cordial. Makes you wonder how things would have gone in Richmond had McAuliffe eked out a victory over Youngkin, in part because of what was being said in the right-wing echo chamber just before the votes were being counted in Virginia. The day before the gubernatorial election, Donald Trump was telling his supporters that they must get out and vote because of the, quote, margin of fraud in Virginia. Steve Bannon, who was still thumbing his nose at a subpoena to appear before the January 6th committee, was warning his followers Democrats were going to try to steal the Virginia election. Over on Fox, they were being totally responsible about the whole thing. Sorry, I mean totally irresponsible.
First of all, it's a really tight, they'll steal it. So you can't afford to have a really tight election. You have to win by a big enough margin they can't steal it.
Actually, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich was wrong. Youngkin won by 2.2 points in Virginia. It was not a blowout. It was fairly close, just under 70,000 votes. By the way, that's a smaller margin of victory than Joe Biden's win over Donald Trump, and we all saw what happened in January at the Capitol in Washington. But it wasn't just Newt sounding the stop the steal alarm bells in Virginia. Tucker Carlson, who just released a tinfoil hat documentary on January 6th, was also suggesting that the fix was in.
There has been a hitch in the highly anticipated count in the Virginia governor's race. Fairfax County, which is the biggest and most Democratic county in the state of Virginia, will not be supplying its vote results on time. We're supposed to have early vote shortly after 7 o'clock Eastern, but an hour ago, a Fairfax County official announced that there is a delay. They say they need to rescan the ballots. They're going to release a partial count, quote, of their early vote in person sometime this evening. Bill Hemmer will be tracking that for us. We're also going to talk to Britt Hume, trying to figure out how many votes they need, apparently. Just kidding.
Tucker is always just kidding or asking questions. If you adjust your tinfoil hat just right, he sounds very sincere. But the usual bad faith actors on Fox were just amplifying the far more volatile rhetoric in other corners of right-wing media in the days leading up to the election.
They got to get out of the watching mode. They got to get to the fighting mode. They got to get sharp elbows. Because otherwise the blue machine in Virginia is just once again going to just generate enough votes to put one side over the other. This is a grave concern, and the Republican side should be jumping up and down, fighting. They should be throwing fists. They shouldn't be losing gracefully. They need to really, really work on this fighting arrangement. They got to get out of this passive, crouching, watching mode. So a lot of concerns.
The host of that show, John Fredericks, a popular figure in conservative talk radio, was whipping up plenty of hysteria on his own about the vote in Virginia for days.
Everything moving in Youngkin's direction and the Republicans, but a lot of people fear this is going to get stolen. They're going to try to cheat. We've got all kinds of irregularities now going on. Where's the jumping up and down here? Where's the lawsuits? Why are they accepting mail-in ballots way after the deadline? I mean, why are they sending out absentee ballots to people that didn't put their Social Security number, violation of law? All this has got to get flushed out. But you're right. The Youngkin campaign, they got 7 days. They got to get on it because they're going to try to steal it in Fairfax.
But the Democrats didn't steal it in Virginia. They lost, and then they conceded. Terry McAuliffe released a statement congratulating Youngkin on his victory. He didn't act like a sore loser. He didn't incite an insurrection. Youngkin, who appealed to Trump supporters by calling for election audits in Virginia before his victory, gladly accepted McAuliffe's concession. And now the peaceful transfer of power in Richmond is well underway. There was no riot in Richmond, thank goodness, right? As a Virginia kid, I was pretty happy about that. But where would we be if Youngkin had lost? It's hard to say. Maybe it would have been just fine. We'll never know. By the way, in New Jersey, the Democratic incumbent governor, Phil Murphy, won by about the same margin as Youngkin did in Virginia. Last time we checked, Murphy's challenger, Republican Jack Ciattarelli, has yet to concede. Our democracy is in big trouble if only one of our two major political parties accepts the election results when they win. pundits in Washington have been furiously slicing and dicing last week's election results in search of some larger meaning behind Youngkin's victory. The one lesson that sticks with me is that our system of government, while far from perfect, worked pretty well last week, despite what happened back in January. Perhaps some in the MAGA movement and on Fox can now have a little more faith in their fellow Americans and in our democracy. There's been a lot of complaining about wokeness